Nkosi sikelele Afrika, malopakani supandoayo, izwe imitando zoye tu nkosi sikelele. Habari gani, habari asubuhi, habari manjana. Welcome to It Is Our Duty, the 60-minute Black radical political educational virtual broadcast. We are grateful to have you here today. We are in the place of showing some announcements on things that are happening. The first thing that we're going to, share with you is giving you a taste of some music to hear a song. And this song is a traditional song that comes out of a group called the Poor People's Campaign. So I'm going to turn up this music a little bit so you can hear it in the background, right? Because we do not have permission, but because I'm not showing the video, it is music behind me. I am able to give you all a taste of this song because of the words. We're going to start with this. This song that we're about to learn is a song that's entitled Somebody's Hurting My Brother. And it's called Somebody's Hurting My Brother. It was born in a town hall meeting around coal ash. So like I mentioned, Poor People's Campaign has been, shout out to you all, have been talking about poor white neighborhoods, black neighborhoods. And it's important that this week we're shouting out to our elder, our love, Mumia Abu Jamal, who's going through heart, a heart in the hospital. And so it's important that we have you all to listen to these words, to support and send good love and good energy his way because of his operation. So here's the words, the listen. Oh, somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long. Well, it's gone on far too long. Somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on far too long. Won't be silent anymore. So with the rhythm, we're centering back the movement and song and how we bring about a piece to elevate, not just in words. Far too long. Far too long. Oh, far too long. Body's hurting our brother this week that's hurting. And that's Mumia Abu Jamal. And I thought it would be very important for you all to see this, just in the same vein that we would sing songs in the fields, on the way to this country, in the boats that they had us in, right? Because they took us off of the motherland. And we had to find a way through all the diversity of 54 countries, thousands of languages to connect in. And with this language called English, Western language that we've been able to assimilate into, we haven't lost our voice and this rhythm. You know, part of the reason why they got rid of the drums was that we have that beat, because it's on the low beat, not the high beat. And what that means is we stay on rhythm. And so our captors wasn't always able to stay on rhythm, right? And so when we shoveled and moved in the fields, we kept the rhythm and we did work and it was spiritual, but they couldn't do that. And they felt like they should get rid of the song, get rid of the drums. So if you think about that, the reason why so many times you see folks of European descent gravitating to us is because there's something unfortunately, the rhythm hasn't sustained in that way, and a lot have learned this. But if you know the reason behind why we, not only our captors, had a deficiency, as we were said to have a deficiency to be 3/5 of the person is only that we were able to establish. But they brought us here to do their labor, and we had a rhythm that they couldn't do that beat. It's called the I forget it's the first thing that you see on a bar, notes. And so that beat that we sustain with this, that downbeat, is sometimes like this, instead of which is the beat that the rhythm keeps on. And so again, I say that to you because of that deficiency. It's gone on too long that someone's hurting our brothers, someone's hurting Mamiya, because of the deficiency of not being able to keep the beat, not to be able to keep the stride of what was our drums, the rhythm as we moved in the field or doing our labor, which was God sent because it kept us spiritually in movement. Fuzzing gone on far too long, and we won't let, so there's a piece that we got to remember, and to get back to the knowing that we shouldn't be discouraged. We should lift who we are up high. We should bring others with us, right? Because even though those forefathers did not allow us to do the drums, drums are now listened to all over this country. African drums and other drums from other continents where they kept that beat, right? So even with their deficiency, which is probably why there's hoarding of money and wealth, right? Because if someone is not substantial in their feelings because they can't get the beat, right? They can't spiritually feel the rhythm in their heart, right? Then therefore, like the drums were taken away, they had to accumulate something. And since they had slaves and they can control our bodies and they can rape our bodies and they can kill us and then they could lynch us and now they're shooting us, there is still a place they haven't stepped up to the same rhythm. And they're learning that you cannot control what the universe has already for us. So when we sing that song, right, because it's gone on far too long, right, because we're saying that it has been going on too far, that you've been that you've captured Mamiya, that you want him tied in chains and shackled to his hospital bed. We know what that was like. Now, for some of us that may have seen Billie Holiday, when they shackled her, when the FBI was against her because she spoke up on the factor that that song brought about a movement called the Civil Rights Movement. Because the more reminder that we sing those songs of freedom, someone's hurting my brother, and the more we keep singing in unison together, right? We're not using just their words. We're using that beat that they couldn't keep, just like we were able to sustain, slavery in the fields, to be enslaved. Right? If we keep the rhythm of who we are, remembering that they had a deficiency to not be able to keep that beat, right? And ask anyone, there's that element beat. And you wonder, why is it some folks cannot keep that beat? It is because of what was given to us. Keeping those drums in Africa and other countries was a sign, I believe, a gift of God. Because if you look at now our country, jazz has been formed because of us, blues and other instruments and other types of music, right? And hip hop. And so we have weaved in a survival, right? But to go back to the factor that they did not like that we had this rhythm, they have done things to us and are now with this political prisoner, Mamiya Abu Jamal, his birthday being next Saturday. We are steering our movement education in the rhythm in this beat of songs of freedom to remind you, get a little bit out of this talking, right? I myself getting a little bit out, and thank God, as a Libra, I think I like the balance. As soon as I feel like I'm talking too much, I go into song. I don't care if I'm on a TV show, if I'm in a conversation at a university, wherever you are. Sometimes we need to get to the spiritual aspect, which is who we are as a people, and get out of their tongue, right? And which is why we open this show with Nkosi Sikelele Africa Malapakaniso Panduayo Izwe Matando Zoyeto Nkosi Sikelele. We started in the tongue of our ancestors. We started in the tongue. This show, it is our duty to show to you all there is a tongue that was given to us called English, and we bring back the tongue that was taken from us from the motherland. So I've mentioned a little bit about Mamiya. We have been doing some steering, some work around him. I am going to show, now that we've showed that piece, a little clip. And it's really just an advertisement for next Saturday, Mamiya's birthday. And the reason why we're going to show you this clip or this video, not even video, what am I saying? It is a graphic. It's because we want you to join us, right? There is times where we, here we are right here. Let's put this up on the screen. There are times where if you all are in the city that we're in, I'm going to take my face off of here. Right, Californian for Mamiya Holy Ground Ceremony, Saturday, April 24th, 3 p.m. The assembly will be on Center Street, at Huey Newton Street and Center. Right there is a house. We are so blessed to know the sister that put the mural on her house for the Black Panther woman, right? And so you'll see the mural, and we're going to do a birthday to Mamiya. We're going to send this in love to his family and to those that hopefully that will come on and join us in celebrating his birthday. And then at that corner, we're going to do a procession down the street towards Mandela, and we're going to honor um, Huey Newton. This street was named after him not too long ago. It's important that we bring back, we're having actually events all weekend. The 20th, we're going to KQED. On the weekend, this Saturday that we're talking about this event, there's going to be a car caravan. There's going to be another program in San Francisco. And then on Sunday, there's also going to be at Lake Merritt a political education. But we want you to come to this particular one, right? Because we have our ones that we love in this coalition of being together with other comrades, labor workers, and those that have been friends and allies and supporters of Mamiya. This particular one, because he was a Black Panther, we are going to the Black community. We are centering our this assembly for Mamiya with birthday cake and balloons to then honor that the movement is still centered in the Black community, still centered with those that taught that beat. that beat of the drum that was taken from us, that we've taken back and now included it in this part of this country's livelihood when it comes to music, right? So this procession to Mandela Parkway is to honor and give ashe to ancestor Huey. And so going back to the Black Panther community, where between 1968 to 74, Black Panthers were um, had funerals up until the time Huey went to the last one and him himself died. Right, this is the street 9th, which is now Dr. Huey Newton Street. Right, and so we're going back to this place because Mamiya came about because he joined at 16 this party called the Black Panther Party. So a lot of the things that in this conversation about rhythm, right? Why were the drums taken away? Why couldn't they keep that beat, right? Why was it they felt so inadequate that they kept that beat, right? And they had us as labor, but they still feel inadequate that they're hoarding money, right? Which was capitalism. Hoarding money because there's certain things that we're happy with what we're given spiritually, even if we're in the fields. We can keep a beat and find joy, Black joy, right? Of who we are because God created us, or whoever your spiritual guide is, has created us in that rhythm. It's called the rhythm of life. Rhythm, 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 right? And so I'm going to recite a poem that I talk about rhythm later on, but I think to mention it here on this assembly is to show that we can celebrate Mamiya's birthday, we can rally, we can demand his freedom, which we will be doing, but we also have to give pretense to the fact that the reason Mamiya is one of a few, right? There's other political prisoners, and now we say free them all, is because there was a party that he started in Philadelphia that was started right on the block where we're going, back to the source. So Center Street and Huey Newton Street, which has now been named, it was 9th Street at one time. The procession to Mandela is to remind us, because there are folks right there on that street that remember when Huey was killed, when Huey died. They remember in this community where from 1968 to 74, the COINTELPRO, the FBI that sabotaged the community of West Oakland. And now, because of gentrification, it still needs the revitalization of those that can keep that rhythm and say, we now honor our brother, cousins, singing the song that we just heard. And it's time to do that. It's time to go back to that source. Now, COVID-19, the uprising proved there is fear, rightly so, not to be stupid, right? To shelter in place has been important, but not to be stupid when we say that we want to social distance, when we ask people to wear your mask. We are asking you all to do these things. And we can still do that. And we can have this assembly. There's nothing against this. There shouldn't be anything against the tenants and the neighbors that will be joining us to assemble on a street where their legacy, the legacy of the man that changed the nation to put Oakland on the map, the Black Panther Party. And we're going to honor him. And we're going to put out candles and have a ceremony to say thank you to Huey, but to ask Huey in support as our ancestor to help our brother Mamiya. So this brings a whole different dynamic that we're trying to get to. And the dynamic is we're trying to say is, if right now the killings are going to continue because that's what they do. Right? We know how to change the what we're trying to do, right? Is change the way and the flow of this country. We know how to change and to make noise. We know how to constantly defund the police. We will be doing all this. And at the same time that this work is being done here in the streets, in the legal facilities called city halls, in the spaces called courtrooms, there's another work, right? That's always the foundation. And that's called the spiritual aspect. So simultaneously, this is what we have to teach a lot of other cultures that are learning this way of the Black radical tradition, is that, and I'm going to give an example first to really to go through. So when Marissa Alexander and Trayvon Martin in Trayvon Martin in Florida as well, and Troy Davis, which was another case that we did as the peer review of the Sower group. We started that movement as well. During those times where we were demonstrating and confronting those systems of oppression, the state, in the courthouses, right? Reading political education in our offices, we had a group that no one knew about. And I'm saying it now, they didn't know about it, but those groups came together at 6:00 in the morning, and they were our elders that prayed. I'm going to say that again. The movement that you don't see, right? Because people believe, well, your organizing wasn't that part to part. You didn't have enough people in the beginning. You didn't have the sheet for the logistic sheet and the sound system. Yeah, those things will come about. And nonprofits have helped with that, even though we don't like the nonprofit industrial complex, right? We want to center, again, the liberation movement first. During those times, actions were happening. We had spiritually every morning at 6 a.m., people joining the calls to pray. God bless my grandmother's soul. Rest in power, Grandma. At 93, she was one of those women. This phone calls that were across the country invited people at 6:00 in the morning from Florida, California, Mississippi. And the pride of that is, no, we didn't broadcast that. And the reason why we didn't broadcast it, because it wasn't something to broadcast. See, when you know the rhythm, again, about that beat and who you are and what moves you, there's nothing they can take from you. There is no fear. And see, that's the piece that we're bringing back. It's great to know what they teach you in the colleges and universities, what they teach you on PBS from the documentary on Eyes on the Prize, which we did, right? Those were organizers. I was a part of that as well, thanks to Henry Hampton. But not just the work that comes out of our mouth in Western language. The other side is the spiritual foundation that we put that says, no matter what happens, abobo, no matter who tries to take us, ashe, no matter what principality in darkness, amen, no matter where they do not have the great senses when we need the sage, amaho matakoyase, aho, right? All of this of the ashe, and so it be, right? May it be, by saying those words, are more powerful because we are setting the vibration within us to uplift and to be power in this universe. So people ask me, well, how you do it, leader? You had 27,000 people, $100,000 y'all raised, y'all weren't on the nonprofit. Because every day at 6 a.m., we first had the group of people praying. I don't care if they were praying. There were most of them were Christian, but there were Muslims, there was Yoruba priestess, there were other people in Santeria, whatever the religion was. The point was to come together to make sure that everything we were doing was in order, and it didn't come from me, a human, or the groups that were out in the streets who are human, but was protected by the energies of these people you see even on the screen. Harriet Tubman, Fannie Lou Hamer, our elders, our ancestors. And that is the piece we need to return. Right? So when we say these songs of freedom, and we say these other chants, we got to remember, are we centering it? So we're not speaking, but those that need to speak through us, right? My grandmother said when I couldn't walk, when she couldn't do certain things, she said, God, lift me and carry me. You know, these were the wisdom foundations of our ancestors. And although we had to adjust our spirituality from our languages, 52 countries, thousands of languages in the motherland, and we didn't know all the culture, and we still don't know all the culture of the traditions of religion, if you want to call it that, or spirituality, it still is in us. It still comes through because they still speak to us if you're listening. Here, the third eye, if you're listening. So with Mamiya, we're going to do this first, trying a little something different now that we're letting it be known that we have, because the civil rights movement did this and the Garveyites did this, and the slave plantations in the middle of the night, they did this. They woke up in the middle of the night, they went into the fields, right? I think there's a movie that shows something similar to give an idea. Beloved, yes, Beloved. They got up in the middle of the night, and Suge, I think her name was, or the mother guardian, right? Because she has the ankh within her yoni, right? If you know, which is another class we talked about, if you're listening to that matriarchal mother, nurturer, right? She tells us, let's come in the middle of the night. Make sure y'all come and let's pray. So yes, there were men and women guides and griots, right? And those that stole away, like Harriet Tubman in the Night for Freedom. But there was always a group spiritually in this battle. And that is why our songs are so powerful in the Christian church or any church. Aretha Franklin even showed that that lineage of that song, that vocal, that, blues and jazz, all of that is why they hate us, because the rhythm has been the truth of this universal link. Why my grandmother would say those walls of Jericho can break, right? Those jail cells can literally fall. And it's only an understanding if you can believe and understand that, if you can listen to yourself, how much you're connected to the universe. Because it's not normal, right? Think about it. It's not normal that this breed of people want to kill us all the time. Think about it. But if they can't keep the rhythm in that beat, and because of that deficiency to not keep that rhythm and beat, which is why they took our drums, as I explained, that is why they're hoarders. They have a need to have something more. If you look into the psychology of hoarders, there is a deficiency that they don't think they have enough, that something within them isn't right, And we have many of beautiful folks from our past, especially the Black Renaissance, that talked about this, the deficiency, right? So we need to go back out, exiting maybe the language a little bit, because now we can speak their tongue and we'll become very vocal in the college campuses, and we can be very eloquent and right. Yeah, we need to write. We need to politically educate. We need to steer principled, even in the electoral processes. You all are doing that. But should it take over the liberation movement? Should it take over our work in the streets? So we're going back to the streets. And when I say in the streets, not just demonstrating on where the person has passed or been lynched, but to the places like where Huey Newton was, where he started the Black Panthers, going back to those places, to the places they want us to forget, right? Black Wall Street is being rejuvenated, going back to those places because it's holy ground now. And when I say holy ground, meaning the fire came, they burnt it down. But the ceremony, right? Because there is this fear. Well, this scary ghosts and stuff like that, no, that's real. Those things. But there are people that are brought up to know how to deal with those spiritual things that were devastating, right? When we think of the Holocaust, it was devastating what happened to those things. But did that stop them to say, no, we want y'all to pay us back? reparations. And we want to also put up monuments so that we can always revere to them, and we will always pray for them, and we will always center that in our homes every night. So I think the trauma that we have as a people is we don't brush it off and say, let's forget about it and become spiritual and talk real soft and then just only write papers and talk on a place where maybe the homeless and the women who are working 4 and 5 jobs on a plant like Amazon cannot understand what we're saying because of the eloquence of our voices. We got to be able to speak for all people to understand, right? Not to just bring everyone into the middle class. So we're going to the street where the Black Panthers was scared, where the hurt was caused because they didn't like that we were freeing our people. Mamiya Street, the bomb move. We are going back to those places. Why? They're holy ground. Where Harriet Tubman freed the slaves, her first trip is holy ground. To go back to them would mean she had an apparition. Is it apparition? I think you call it. That said to her, and hey, her higher power spoke to her. Go and get them folks and bring them, to freedom. Huey Newton had the same apparition. Something said, go and y'all go do this and get this thing started here. Come on now. Marcus Garvey said, well, we can get ships and go back home to Africa. That was the apparition. That was given from a spiritual guide. So when we say those things evolved and they were terrible and look what happened, they killed them all and we don't never want to do that. No, we take the good and we prove on the things that were bad. Everything's a lesson if you make it to be a lesson. Everything powerful and even disruptive can be a lesson. How to make things better and how to make things that were good to be done again. So what the Black Panthers did by going into the community needs to be done again. We need to center our community, not just center the college campus, not just center Broadway in Oakland where the skyscrapers are and the nonprofits dwell to get funding, right? Going back to the streets where our people are. And when we go back, not just demonstrating, not just making noise, not just allowing them to be heard, right? Not just to have our core group of people to come back and analyze, but the greatest thing that we found out from our Women Political Prisoners panel was center the political analysis from those that have been affected most. The political analysis of the homeless encampments. Y'all should be from every college campus going to take notes. Oh my gosh, tell us what we should do. Tell us what has not been done. Tell us what the mayor did not do. Tell us what y'all say we should do. There is a place where we think that the knowledge and the political analysis only comes from one place. The unsung heroes. The woman on our political prisoner panel. They were the ones that centered the political analysis. They've been through the fire. Not only did they fight the good fight and then be incarcerated unjustly and then come out, but now they are the griots that we should be sitting at the foot of. The feet of all these political prisoners is why they want them in prison. When they were not able to keep that beat, and they told no more drums, y'all. I don't care if y'all came from Africa and that's what y'all do to stay and do this work. No more drums because we can't get that beat, that rhythm. They just could not get to that rhythm, right? And so the hoarding was, they knew there was something deficient within them. So I'm centering BIPOC, and I'm not saying that there aren't white people that have a listening to their spiritual guide, right? Because we're all really humankind. I'm centering the oppressed for a reason. I'm centering in Oakland, where there's BIPOC, but a fear of the Black bodies, right? Let's talk about this. We can say BIPOC and there's only the other hoops, Asian, Native American, and Mexican. All of us have gone through something right now. But in the city or the community where Black people were, right? And there's something called some Black bodies. What is that I'm trying to say? The Black bodies. Crossing out Black bodies. I can't even say it. That's terrible. Not centering Black bodies. So there is a place where, why is it that a place that was all 80% Black, Oakland, is now we can't find Black bodies? Gentrification, right? But think about it. There were 4 hoops, according to Native Americans, and I'm going to go over that again. The red hoop, Native American; the yellow hoop, Asian American, or Asian, Native; and brown, Mexican, Latino; and then the black hoop. What happened in Oakland was there's anti-Blackness. There's the word, anti-Blackness. And so when anti-Blackness happened, because we were labor, right? And then we revolted and said, let's do Black Panthers and sing songs and feed the children. And then they take the feeding of the children and put them in every school. It's called the breakfast program for every school in America, right? There is a knowing that it started with them bringing us as chattel because of the melanin in our skin, which is a blessing, because we were able to keep this beat and the rhythm and the song. And now we're birthing not only the motherland, but it's coming through to us, right? To bring songs and religion and all kinds of things that's sustaining. And folks are finding out, oh my gosh, that's why Cuba kept them drums in their country from the slaves. Wow. Cuba learned a lot from their slaves. Cuba turned their whole face around on what was important. In Palenques, though, there were slaves. Let's not get it twisted. In Palenques, which were bat caves, that's where the slaves went, right? But eventually, the country said, you know what? We love these rhythms, right? You know, those Cuban rhythms from Matanzas, and the rhythms of the people connected in with Catholicism. But America, because they couldn't keep that beat, they felt they had a deficiency. And we are here now, where between 1968 to 74, going back to the places where they have killed those political conduits. I'm going to call them conduits. You know, our brother, ancestor Huey Newton, was a conduit to start that. He put, again, the fire back in the belly of our people after they did the same thing to Marcus Garvey, right? So it would continue on. But the truth is, like I said, is that 6 o'clock in the morning, if we're not in the fields in slavery, we are on some calls. It can be Zoom calls, but it could be phone calls, but it could be really not on the falls or in technology, whatever we decide. But that is the foundation. So we need Mamiya free. We need him free because he is the conduit that has come through from this Black Panther Party. And we're centering the Black community to understand the political education, to understand that Huey Newton is directly the brother of Mamiya. And if you have the love for your people and what they did in the streets of Oakland, despite what they did from 68 to 74 and the killings and all the funerals, we will center together to come through. Not just downtown, right? Not just at the police station, but back into the community, back to the Black communities. The Black communities. The reason why we talk about Chinatown, them coming to find their tribe, but in their tribe, they didn't just have restaurants. We love to eat. I know I do. Collard greens and what have you. But we're Black flight happened, so we couldn't have the credit union anymore. And Chinatown had, right? In Chinatown, they had their own grocery stores, and they have their own places in the morning where they do Tai Chi, right? So there is a place where we may have arrived, folks. We now have Fortune 500 jobs and, own businesses, and some of y'all making $1 million like y'all wanted in sports, and we stand up and take a knee. But the Chinatowns and the Burdecos of Mexican communities, they go back to plant credit unions, not just restaurants, and to open up housing developments for the elderly, and do Tai Chi in the morning together, right? I teach Tai Chi, so I wanted to mention that because I haven't been able to do that, but that happens on outside of the parable of the sower on a Zoom call. And so what I'm getting to is, it's great we have nonprofits to do this work, to be abolitionists against prisons, and abolitionists against the nonprofit industrial complex, to be union people and cooperative people. But people, let me remind you, when we see the communities of Quilembos and Palenques and Maroon villages and Chinatowns, that's saying that we need to come back together. And if we close our eyes, like the meditation practice that I've been pushing, that we continue to do in our homes, and listen to that third eye, listen to those ancestors, set up, if you have, if it's for you, your ancestor shrine, right? These are certain things we're going to talk about, because some of you feel like you don't want to do that, but going to the water is just as good. Yamaya in the ocean, Oshun to the river. The truth of the matter, even if you were brought up like me in my grandmother's church, and I went to church almost 6 days a week in my grandma's church, I had to. That was her rule. I had to find that place as an adult who got really away from Christianity. The thoughts of how they enslaved us was my thing in college. I was like, I don't want nothing to do with this man-made religion that's enslaved us, right? I humbled myself to find out this. My grandmother was a praying woman. She was a warrior. So there's different types of warrior. I'm loud when I need to be on the megaphone, but I'm as humble as I can be every morning when I have to say, let it not be me in this work. Let it not be me. Let it be those that speak through me, my ancestors, because and we all have said this saying, we are our ancestors' wildest dreams. So to do this spiritual walk, this holy ground ceremony this weekend, saying Mamiya needs to be free, it's his only treatment. We stand on this. His only treatment is freedom, right? And so since we don't have at this very moment, everyone, well, some places, calling 6 o'clock in the morning to do the prayers for those in the street, prayers for those incarcerated for political activism from last year, prayers right now we haven't had in mega numbers, the prayers from our people to do prayers for those that passed away from COVID. Right? We can't wait for this country to do that. Yes, we put them in power, right? But that's not their job to know truly the connection for us to intercede with our spiritual welfare and our ancestors in this thing. We need to hit the holy ground in places where things have devastated our communities. And that means going back. Yes, be freed, work on the PTSD, post-traumatic slave disorder. I am not going to say take care of yourself first. Please secure your own mask before you secure the mask of others, right? So that's why I'm on my knees every day, but that's why I can do this show, because it's not through me. I'm praying most of it, right? Because I am still human. I still find pleasure. I still find joy and laughter in my children and my partner, right? And I still have to heal with a therapist and to get my groups that I have on Zoom. And then that's not enough for me. That's for me. And honestly, it's not enough for you. Because if you're working a nonprofit or a Fortune 500 company, someone else is going to, unfortunately, need us because of this system that we're in. And so what we're asking you is to center yourself in an organization, in a movement, right? Remember that you have the drumbeat. So no matter what the hoarding that they're doing, maybe that money that you have accumulated, no matter how much, maybe a percentage or even your income tax that we got this from the Biden administration. You can give a percentage of it to a movement. Give a percentage of it to some family on your street. Mutual aid is great, but please, y'all, what we are seeing with mutual aid is why I don't like nonprofits, why I'm glad to be a part of the pyramid of the Sower Intentional Community Cooperative, is that giving mutual aid can also mean that you're saving someone, that you're doing a good job to give. There was a place where churches wanted to give to the homeless and give the food and feed the homeless, and charity is what we call it. Charity is what they call it. When we did mutual aids after slavery, it wasn't charity. When we had mutual aids, before we started cooperatives and intentional communities after slavery, the new Jim Crow, right? After that legacy, that whole period, when they would catch us on the street in Birmingham, Alabama, because of the steel company, right? They wanted people to work, but slavery was over. So the governor and the mayor and the police force and white folks grabbed people off the street and put them at the steel company in Birmingham, Alabama. Okay? So what I'm saying to you, when we center going to this whole need, when we center the fact that we're not giving charity for mutual aid, that while we're giving food, we just did a thing last weekend, we don't just give a plate, we're educating, political educating. We're loving them up. The one thing that I know, even going back to Oakland, is I may not ever move back to Oakland because I don't live there right now, but I did the beginning of COVID in a couple years. But people know my name. Them homeless knew my name. And I'm not to say my story and to talk about my tooting my horn, but there was a place where I would bring flowers out to the homeless. I didn't know what else to do. Talking, if you're going to provide mutual aid, don't just say you just did numbers and fed people, feeding the homeless. That's what the church do and the nonprofits do, and they keep getting more money. But the truth is, wait a minute, what kind of system are they feeding us into? It's called the nonprofit industrial complex for a reason, like the prison industrial complex, which means we need more money. We need more money. As y'all see right now, some nonprofits needing more money, right? We have to feed the people. We have to feed. Wait. But what are you teaching them? How are you teaching people to fish? Or did you give them just a fish for the day? Are you teaching them now? Maybe they should come out of their jobs and become the cooperatives to the job they're in. Are you teaching them these things? Or here's some more food. We're going to take care. We're just going to plant. No, baby. This is the Black radical tradition today. And we're here to say what you taught in your nonprofit, what you were taught in the foundations that's shedding money to you, is that we're not only supposed to just provide and support these families and people that need it, but we are to support them to do something different. Octavia Butler calls it change. We are to make this go back to a movement where we were in villages and we relied on each other. So we're asking you again to come to the Holy Ground ceremony, to center back the neighborhoods of the Black people where Black, Black flight happened. To remember that if you're doing mutual aid, don't just be giving out food and not teaching people something about political education, about what we were when we had the Black cooperative movement. Teaching them about agitating, educating, motivating, teaching them about how to, going in, one of the things we did in Florida, having our yoga mats and teaching meditation in the HUD properties. Don't just be giving food and clothes, having them reliant on you. That's that whole thing of empowerment, which is what nonprofits say. And we're not against nonprofits. Remember, we're against the system, the state, that is allowing it to become this soul turning of white supremacy and patriarchy and capitalism. We're gearing, as a parable of the Sower Intentional Community, the feminist economy. So please join us for this weekend. Again, we have several programs. And I think, let's see, I think it's on here. Our message, which was another part of the song that you heard. This part of the song for our brother Mamiya, who will be celebrating his birthday, is the one that we center because of Philadelphia. And that is brick by brick, wall by wall. We're going to free Mamiya Abu Jamal. Brick by brick, wall by wall. Free Mamiya Abu Jamal. Brick by brick, wall by wall. Free Mamiya Abu Jamal. So the synergy, right? Because looking at this, any white person or people who are not geared into in the European thought rather than the cultural thought would say, well, maybe you shouldn't move, because we do this thing called moving. And in right now, principled in the health systems, right? Because I teach Tai Chi, right? And I do these acupressure spots. They tell us that rocking is important. And I knew that was true. All the mothers in my grandmother's church rocked. They were stressed all day working for the man, cleaning their houses. And there was, so when we sing this song, brick by brick, wall by wall, and you're telling me, is this appropriate, leader, to have a show where you rocking, girl, and you teaching people how to do the rhythm, right? And I'm teaching the strength of a song, right? Brick by brick, wall by wall, because there are some people that have come to for the first time to the uprising demonstration, and they didn't feel it, right? They said brick by brick, wall by wall, free Mamiya Abu Jamal. It's almost like someone that's been born into a middle class or upper class family, and they haven't been able to go to a concert and clap at the concert, right? Free what's the name of the Sweet Honey in the Rock concert? I love going with the and I'm gonna give a shout out Women's Theological Center, because they taught me to rock and move in the middle of the alleyway of when we're going to the concerts, right? And we would dance together. Brick by brick, wall by wall, free Mamiya Abu Jamal. So when I'm in a place where I see younger people, or people that have not been able to break through this confines of American perfectionism, where it says you're not supposed to move too much, you look crazy, right? You're doing too much in the movement, in the song, right? And we're teaching them the liberation means you free yourself. Nina Simone freed herself in her songs. Right? Unfortunately, she didn't have a spiritual guide that could keep her mindset, because of all those that were against her, including our own people. Because even our own people, if you move too much and you're singing too loud in the concert, they don't want you to do that, because they say you make them look bad. What we're teaching you is, no, baby. What my grandmother and our ancestors taught us is to go with that spirit, to be loud in that movement, to be brilliant in who we are, to be our ancestors' wildest dream, right? So we're going to try that again. Because remember, they couldn't keep the beat when they put us in those slave ships. And they kept that drum from us because we could keep the beat, but they couldn't. And we were being joyous in the fields, even though we were enslaved, right? Can you imagine? We cutting and hearing some of those stories. I remember hearing how the songs that those in my family and other families would say when their enslaved grandparents would talk about coming together and singing. They would move, right? Right? It was even made us joyous, even in a situation where we should have been crying and messed up and mentally deranged. And we did come back out of that. And yes, we still have PTSD. And yes, we still have to center mental health, right? And our spirituality to be adhered and to be released from the trauma. But part of that trauma can happen. Some of that trauma can be released by us centering those healing remedies that have always kept us even in the motherland. That herbs from the ground, if you're planting now, especially it's spring, right? The meditation and the Tai Chi and those things that you can do online and on TV you can watch. But when we come out of this, centering the strength of our voices, not just to be eloquent in the dogma and the talking, right? And to use their Western language, but to be centered in this tone, which is a frequency. That yoni I talked about is the same reason. Yoni is connected all to Telsa. Why the Egyptian pyramids all have this thing about the Ankh, right? It's about knowing brick by brick, wall by wall, free Mamiya Abu Jamal is not just something to say without tone and without fervor, right? And there's a difference for those that may have been in a Catholic church or in a Pentecostal church. There's a certain type of joy you got to find in it. So our procession this week for freeing Mamiya for his only treatment, which is freedom, is to bring back that spirit my grandmother said, which is to remember we can knock down walls of Jericho. We so bad. In the Black Renaissance movement, we talked about we are fierce beyond, right? And now we have this thing where, be a little humble. Don't say those things that you're fierce and you got it going on. But the brilliancy, the brilliance of that is you got to remember whose child you are. You got to study. You got to heal. You got to do this healing work, right? Tempered in meditation and finding a group or a therapist for the trauma we've been through. But also to remember that when you are amongst the people, you got to give it all. You got to bring back that rhythm. And this procession is our way to steer it back into the Black community. It's time. It's to remember that you can also be the one to start at 6:00 in the morning, a prayer group, meditation group, to work, to help your work, to help your nonprofit work or your mutual aid. Nobody gotta know. Whatever it is you do, remember that we are all here for a reason. We are our ancestors' wildest dreams. And as we all say, I'm gonna say this last one again, brick by brick, wall by wall, we're going to free Mamiya Abu Jamal. We hope that you can join us this weekend. We are praying and centering Mamiya in our thoughts, sending him metta during his operation for his heart and his family, and love to his family. And all those that have been drastically hurt during the COVID, all those that are up against immigration, all those fighting for land back as natives, all our brothers in prison, sisters in prison, all our political prisoners, all those that are fighting for the abolition. Remember, this is our show that we have once a week on Sunday. And yeah, we wish it was 5,024,600 minutes, but it's not. And we wish it could be 24/7, 365 days of the year, but it's not. But we are here for the weeks every Sunday at 6:00 Pacific time. And we say to you, it is our duty to fight for freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love and protect each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains.